Bonjour. Good evening. So yeah, story of my life. I feel like I want to squander the rest of the evening at this point, seeing as how nobody wants to let me do what I'm supposed to be doing with my time. Have we only been running for, almost a minute. There we go. Took a second for it to tell me how long I'd been on here. Alright, so feel like well, I feel really tired is what I really feel like, but aside from that, I feel like I just want to take the chance to do something mind-numbingly relaxing for an evening. But I also feel like that would be a horrible waste of time. Because here's the thing. I have these projects I want to do. I want to do a lot of things. But I can't seem to get anybody to let me do anything. Every fricking time I think I have a chance to get something done and to work on something, somebody decides they have a better use for my time. And so that's what I'm in the midst of dealing with right now. So my employer, having decided in all their infinite wisdom in the last 2 weeks, week and a half, to fire one of our managers and have one of our very few workers, they gave him so much crap that he ended up being forced to leave, essentially. And then the actual store manager is having heart issues, and so she's out for an indeterminate period of time. And then one of our other workers had a severe allergic reaction to something. So we literally have 2, maybe 3 employees available to work shifts. So of course I'm one of those people. And honestly, like, there's a part of me, I'm ready to just start saying no to shifts. I'm just not going to come up anymore. Like, you get Monday, Wednesday, Friday from me. That's all I'll do anymore. I really want to do that. But A, the money's probably going to be useful when I have to get a replacement part for my car, which seems to be currently threatening to go worse. And I need to get some dental work done. So I kind of can't really walk away from that. But like, I keep looking at that calendar going, like, when's the day? When's the day that makes the most sense for me to just say, bye, see ya? Because I don't want to deal with it anymore. It's a level of absurdity. And I think the other thing I have to, constantly remind myself is to hop online and do a quick look every week, every day, if it makes any difference, to see if that's not what I was asking. To see if I can find a better job. Just go. It's not a hard question to ask a search engine to do that. Today was the 14th, I think, right? Yeah. So let's take a look at all the listings that have gone up in the last 2 or 3 days. Honestly, I would take some shit work. I would take some of those stupid jobs. Dishwasher wanted. Like, I'd be game for it. I mean, some of this stuff, unfortunately, is, a 2-hour drive to get to the place where they're listing it. Because I live in the middle of frickin' nowhere. Like, it's spread out. There's not a lot of easy access for a lot of that stuff. So I need to look into those job listings every day. I need to get away from what I'm currently doing. It's not worth it. I was looking at some art stuff recently because I mean one of the projects I've done this month for the art projects for the month was micro origami, and it's something. It reminded me of when I was younger. One of the things I used to do when I was still in grade school, not even high school, but pre-high school, I would fold micro paper airplanes. And I mean like micro paper airplanes. Like I'm trying to think, like you could easily fit one of my micro paper airplanes on the end of this pen, the pencil. Like I literally folded little paper airplanes. That's so small that aerodynamics aren't a factor anymore. You're essentially throwing a spit wad at that point. But I folded these super tiny paper airplanes with just my fingers and my eyes, no special tools. And as I got older, I morphed some of that over into micro origami. And there's a part of me that was like, I wonder what else I could do. And I happened to remember years ago hearing an artist do a talk where he made artworks that fit inside the head of a pin. And I went like, I kind of remember that. And like, it feels like, if I really applied myself, I could probably do something like that. I mean, at that point, what you need is like a magnifying device to help you visualize it, and you make some simple tools to help you move whatever you're working on around. But I could imagine doing that, and I could probably do pretty good at it. And then I dug up some information about the artists, or the artist that I knew, and found a couple of other artists while doing that. And the thing that blew my frickin' mind is the artist that I remember when looking up information on him, he, by all measures in my head, he is amazingly successful. Because a work of his could sell for somewhere in the average range of $300,000. And I'm just sort of like, all right, like what? Like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Like, how do I get myself a piece of that action? Because not only would it be me playing around with something that I'm fascinated with doing, I think I'm pretty good at, the preliminary stages of getting into something like that. But being able to make works that can net me even $3,000 per work would be enough for me to be able to say, like, I could actually move out of the frame of living that I'm used to into something that's a lot less stress prone. Like I wouldn't have to worry about who's in the next room doing what at a given time. Wouldn't have to worry about having to work a stupid job where the shenanigans that keep going on keep happening. Like to be fair, I would still probably get part-time jobs, but it would be something a little more along the lines of like every weekend I go do an 8 to 16 hour shift, a pair of shifts or something like that, doing something that is sort of meaningful to me. And, I have the ability at that point to say, like, I don't have to be here. But I would still probably do that kind of job. But I would also, getting the income from artworks like that would give me the freedom to say, like, I think one of the last things we talked about last time was that idea of doing that, living in a pod for a month or more. Like, I could just up and say, like, I'll see you in a few months, guys. I'm going to go do this weird project that I had this idea for. And then just be able to walk away from it and, not be hurt by doing that to myself. Like, one of the things that's been on my mind is if I want to do more of that exercise pattern that I did before for this channel, I did a couple videos where I tried a different exercise routine, and I recorded some of the content I was making for that. I lost some of it in the hard drive crashes last year, but if I wanted to redo that kind of thing, that's easier done when I don't have to worry about, well, I don't know what day I'm working this coming week because they've changed it 4 times in the last 3 days. Like, it's all over the place. I don't know what day I'm working, and I don't know what day I'll be able to devote time to working out. Like, I don't want to live in a situation where my ability to do projects that are meaningful and interesting to me are prevented from happening because everybody else is jerking me around. Like, the ability to make just $1,000 a month from pieces of artwork that I make would be just a life-changing difference. Like, the issue is, like, with artworks and things like that, they are not long-term income, and they are not necessarily stable income. A parallel example that I've used for one of my friends who doesn't quite grok this concept is when you think about somebody like a locksmith. It's like, well, he would never hire a locksmith because locksmiths are hugely expensive. Like, why would I pay, $200 to $300 to change a couple of locks? And I'm like, well, you have to understand, this guy has to run a business. In the course of a 30-day month, he has to be able to keep his store open, keep his license up to date, to pay his own food and rent and costs. And you have to realize, a good locksmith in a big city might get 15 clients in the course of a month. So those 15 people have to pay the operational costs and cost of living of the locksmith for the entire month. Like, they're not just forgiven if they don't, they don't have any income for 12 days in a row. Like, he still has to eat. He has to still fund his business. Like, so the cost of business is sort of one of those things. You take a look at, like, what does it cost to live and run a business for a month? And then you divide that up by the number of clients you get per month. That's like the bare minimum of what you need to be doing. And I feel like the ability to do that kind of thing, like, take a look at what I would need in a year to survive. I don't necessarily need to be comfortable, but what do I need in a year to survive? And then split that up into roughly how many artworks you can make in that time, and then figure you sell about maybe at most 70% of the works you make during that time. So 70% of the works you can make during a period of time have to meet or equal the amount of costs to live per month or per year. And like honestly, for me, and it's one of those things when I looked into actually pursuing YouTube videos with a real like goal of being a successful YouTuber on a different channel, like the Opportunity Forge might be, if I put the effort in. When you really look at that kind of thing, people will tell you like it takes a long time to really get to a point where you can succeed and live off of your YouTube income. But almost everybody who says that is talking about making $40,000 a year. Like, I don't need to be making $40,000 a year to be able to survive. The way I live right now, I am nowhere near even half of that. I'm below half of what most people think they need to live. So, for me, what would it take to be able to survive? Not anywhere near that. And so, when looking at this artist who was making miniature micro artworks, and knowing that like he could sell one of his pieces for $300,000 without batting an eye, there is definitely a part of me is like, son of a bitch, how do I get a piece of that action? And now I know that's sort of like the wrong thought, because I also know that some people can take a, like, what was it, a 2 by, what was the size of that? A 2-foot by 3-foot canvas. Splash on some simple patterns and sell that work for $1,300. And I'm like, see, to me, in my mind, those works, they're not about the work themselves. And like, so like, you and I could make those same exact artworks and we couldn't sell them for $300. But this guy's going to sell it for over $1,000. So there's definitely a part of me is like, I know it's the artist and their cachet of networking and social representation that allows them to do that. But I still feel like there's room for me to play in that environment. I just have to figure out how to get in and how to get up. Because I have enough weird art ideas that I'm like, I could make micro art. I could probably do some very weird and interesting things with that idea. How many angels can you fit on a head of a pin? Let's find out. I did a little looking into some of the other micro art, where something I've thought about in the past and I was super curious about was the artwork on a grain of rice. So like, you can do the simple ones of writing somebody's name on a grain of rice, and that, to me, there's a part of me is like, okay, yeah, and I don't know how to feel about that, because here's the thing. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, well, whatever. That's like that's making a dozen leather keychains. But I do have to keep going back to a lesson I learned years ago from a craftsman. And I think I probably told this story before, in which there's a master craftsman in wood, I think. And you go into their stall at a crafts fair, and they have this master mosaic. It's like these pieces of wood cut to a shape, their edges beveled down and then rounded over so that they look almost like cobblestones, but they're all shaped like pieces that assemble like stained glass pictures, and they're stained in different colors of wood to create a beautiful piece of artwork. And that piece of artwork is priced at something like $3,000 to $5,000. Every right to be charging that price, but I am never going to be buying a $5,000 cobblewood stained glass artwork. I like I don't have a place to keep it, and I don't have a spare $5,000 to pay for a piece like that. But underneath that piece was a stack of heart-shaped napkin rings, and they were all for like $5 a piece. And I said, that's quite a gap between the two of them. And he goes, yeah, but I can sell 100 $5 heart-shaped napkin rings, and it affords me the income that allows me to make that piece there. That may never sell, but one every year or two. And I went, yeah, that makes sense. So you sell a lot of heart-shaped napkin rings to enable yourself to do other things. So there's the possibility of doing that. Write someone's name on a grain of rice, or do something else on a grain of rice, and put it in a little jar and make a pendant or earrings out of them or something like that. And that's totally doable. That doing the name on a piece of rice is something that you can do easier and quicker, because it's not multicolored, it's not multi-featured piece of artwork that you're doing. And a grain of rice, while small, is not the smallest of the small that would get you the attention of multiple media sources. But if every grain of rice with somebody's name on it sold for $20 as a pendant, and the cost is a grain of rice, the ink that you use to write with, the bottle, the string or rope you use to make the necklace piece out of it, like your total cost to make it is probably going to be in our $7 to $12 range. And so you're going to make what, $8 profit if you sold it for $20. If you mark it to $25 or $30, like, you could sell a fair number of those and make a little bit of money on the side there. And to me, those sort of paychecks coming in from 1 or 2 sales a day would be viable enough to escape the crap work that I do at some of these jobs. Like, I could move on from this job now and get another crap job. But there's a part of me is like, I wonder to what degree I could be potentially successful if I pursued heart-shaped napkin rings as a baseline support. And that's why I think when I've talked before about doing art and paintings and stuff like that, I've also mentioned getting prints made of your artwork, because you can paint a painting and price that painting at $3,000 for your painting. But if you paint a painting, price it at $3,000, and sell 100 copies of a print of that painting for $20 a piece, you're sort of making more from the prints being made, and you can just keep cranking out those prints over time. You can only sell the painting once. And so business-wise, it makes more sense to go that route. Now, what's the equivalent of a print of a name on rice, or a miniature artwork? It's probably simple necklaces made with somebody's name written on a grain of rice or something like that. Or an inspirational quote or something like that printed on a grain of rice. But yeah, I mean, I think the other hurdle I come across is that my want to dabble in multiple things. I mean, in the last week or two, we've talked about, blood, sweat, and tears paintings. We've talked about miniature artworks. We've talked about, what was it? Oh, uh, sort of like a video stunt of living out of a pod for 1 to 3 months. Um, like, my want to play in a lot of those fields would probably end up in me needing to have more than one brand for a lot of that. And I'm debating what's the best way to make sense of that. Like, it's part of the reason I split the Roving Jack in this channel, and while I'll probably split off the Opportunity Forge so that they're independent channels. They're not cousins. Is just because, like, even on this channel alone, it feels cluttered. If you came for books, then why are you here for, taste tests? If you came for movie reviews, why are you having to deal with the board game crap? And so, like, there is the risk of spreading too thin, I think, on some of that. But at the same time, I'm doing these things because these are things that are important to me and I enjoy. And if I don't, like, my goal for any of this, if I were to be successful, if I were to be as successful as that artist who makes $300,000 from making a sculpture of Marilyn Monroe with her skirt being blown up, standing on the head of a pin. If I were to make $3,000 from a work like that, maybe only make 3 or 4 of those in a year, that would be more than enough to be successful. So let's just say I only make 155,000 per piece. So nowhere near what he's making. Times 4 equals, that's 620,000 a year. Divide that by 12 months. That's $51,000 a month. At that rate, I could put enough of that into investments and other things that I could pretty much allow myself to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and not worry about whether or not it's successful. So what would I do with my time? Well, I'd wake up, I'd eat breakfast, and then I'd go turn on a foundry and melt down soda cans and pour it into a mold and make some silly piece of costume propery to make a silly movie that I'd post up on YouTube. And then I'd get out of there and go get lunch, and then maybe go and do some painting at a studio. And when I finished with that, I might work on some writing of novels or something like that for the rest of the evening. And the next day, I'm going to get up, and am I going to go to the foundry? Probably not. I'll probably go do something else, where maybe I'll go to the sewing machine and make a costume that I can wear to a convention. Like, to me, that's what I want to be able to do. Like, follow the inspiration, follow the muse, explore that kind of concept. And so there's a part of that where, like, do you put that off till later? Is that something you do when you retire? Or is that one of the, is that the different brands that I set up? Is there a brand out there that's me making micro art? Well, there's another brand that's me doing blood, sweat, and tears art. And then there's another brand that's rewriting and acting out the scenes with puppets of a remaking of the Star Wars series. And then there's a brand of me out there designing board games. And then there's a brand out there of me writing novels and nonfiction works. And then there's another brand out there of me doing something else. And if that's the case, is that something I'm doing? Each one of those is something I do at least a little bit each month, or can I afford to, for several years in a row, to not write another book, but mainly work on visual arts, and then stop working on visual arts and maybe do some writing for a little while. And part of it would also be something I would use for something along the lines of when we were doing the coming up with story ideas. I still really like the idea of the Corvid sisters, the three anthropomorphic raven detectives. I like that idea. And I've thought about doing some classes on Udemy and Skillshare and stuff like that. And publishing a book of blueprints, and there'd still be a part of me that, like, not worried about making any success out of YouTube channels, but like I would post any of my projects that I thought would be fun to share with other people. And if I'm just fiddling around one day and not recording myself and I make something up, ooh, I should make this so that other people can do this too, I'd probably make another one and record the process of it. But for some of the, like the comic of the Raven sisters, maybe I just want to write the script, hire an artist with a different style than mine to do the artwork for the series, and then together we publish a graphic novel. Maybe I contact some people I know who maybe could do a animation better than the one I did, an animation, and like give them something to work on and like pay them for doing it, and being able to hire people to do the extra work on some of those things. Write a book and get a graphic designer to hire a graphic designer to do some specialty work for the interior of the book. Like, that'd be nice. Like, ideally, I would like to be able to say, like, I know a graphic designer. I would love to be able to say, like, hey man, I'm going to hire you for this job. Here you go. Could you work on this? And you get your name in here. You get this being able to be published as a work that you have worked on, that you can put on your resume. And I'm going to pay you a living wage for the 1 to 2 months that it takes to work on this project. I want to do that. But it's one of those, like, the idea of a bunch of little things that can make your pay rate a base pay rate that's sustainable, and then have the chance to do a few per year of those big projects. Like, it just boggles my mind when you think about, like, how much certain artists can sell their artwork from. And I'm like, what the hell is the secret to getting to that tier? How do I get there? Because I'm not kidding. Like, there are artists out there. That's 5 days total in hours, 24 hours a day, 5 days total time wise during the course of a month or two that they put into this piece. I'm obsessive enough that I could almost guarantee you, as long as I've got these multiple playgrounds to play in, if you gave me just enough money to buy the canvases and the equipment to do stuff and said, I will pay you $200,000 for whatever you produce for this one canvas, I would almost guarantee you that I'm going to sit there and play on that canvas for the next, like, I will maybe forget to eat a meal at least once a week, and I will probably be at that canvas straight from start to finish, because that's sort of the way I get. Like, I can, and it's one of the things I even do at my job that I currently hate, is just leave me the hell alone for 2 hours in the food section. I will have that looking like the display models they use to inform how they're supposed to set up a store. That will be one of the most beautiful food sections you have ever seen. And it'll be put in first in, first out order. And anything that's potentially on the edge of its expiration date will be marked so that it can be marked down for sale. Like, that is what I do. I do it well, and I do it obsessively. And I can bring that same energy to any project I feel a drive towards. So if you give me a canvas and tell me, I can't wait to see what you make of this, I have enough ideas. Like, this channel is full of my brain farts that I just drop out in the open on a regular basis. Like, you give me permission to pursue one of those things to the end, and the knowledge that if I do, for a week or a month, work on this project, that it will pay enough that I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get my gas money, where I'm going to get my food money, where I'm going to get my rent money for the rest of the next 6 to 12 months. If doing that once got me there, then you bet your butt I would fall in love and do that all the damn time. And it's not unheard of. It happens pretty well often. I just haven't figured out how to get my piece of that pie yet. And that's really like I feel like that's one of those big things I want to do this year. This year, I want to get to the point where I figure out how to make that possible. I figure out how to turn over enough of the things that I'm working on that they can support me to work on all of the things I want to do. Like, 50% of the ideas I come up with, they're not going to be anything that's going to be long-term investments of my time and energy. I get it. That's fine. I'm still going to frickin' do them. But I need to find the things that sustainably, that's quite a stutter we got there, sustainably hold me into a survivable system. I need those, even if it's like 6 things per year or 12 things per year, 1 per month, things that I create that can hold me for the entirety of the month off of what I make from that. If I could do that, that would be a dream. And that's sort of the dream. That's the end of this year. I would love to have figured out and reached that point. And unfortunately, it's hard to work on and figure out those things when so much of my time is eaten up by these people who don't care. Like, I go to that job on a regular basis, and it's clear to me they don't care about the other employees. They don't care about the things that make the sense for the job to do. They don't care whether or not they have food on the shelves that's past its expiration date. And like, they're only going to care about it when it comes back to bite them. And it's a continual frustration for me to go into that environment and constantly be exposed to that. They don't care about me. They don't care about that work that should be done and needs to be done to make a workable environment for their customers and their employees. Like, it's a constant drain. And it becomes clearer and clearer every day that I do it that I'm giving them as much, if not more, of my life than I'm giving me to do the things I want to do. And I was like, I gotta get out of that system. I gotta get out of that. Yeah, I may have to work hard at making heart-shaped napkin rings. $8 lessons for Udemy or something like that. I may have to bust my butt to do those things. But there'll be things I'm doing for me and are meaningful to me and that I can take pride in at the end of the day. And I feel like I need to move in that direction. But I'm still kind of burned out from the day I had today, because this is supposed to be my day off. Just like Wednesday was supposed to be my day off. But I haven't had those days off. I have actually. When was the last day I had off? Was it Tuesday? Or no, I think I had to do some things that day too. I have no idea when I finally had, like, we're in that situation, and like, I get paid less than $10 an hour. I don't think it's worth that. I don't think that level of aggravation is worth that. Like, from this point on, like, it should be $16 an hour to get that level of aggravation and for me to sidetrack that much of my own goals in my life. Like, I kind of need to set that kind of as the benchmark from here on out. But we're almost at 45 minutes. That's sort of the rant I have tonight, because I don't have a lot going on other than just dealing with this crummy job. I hope to be in a better mindset by Tuesday. Is it Tuesday the next day? I don't even know what day of week we're on right now, because I'm used to having this day off, and I did not get it off. Why are you telling me there's another update? I literally just updated this while I was at work today. How is there another update? Why is there another update? Is this a weekly thing that I'm going to have to do? Anyway, that's just me whining at this point. I'm sorry. It's 45 minutes in. I'm going to call it here and maybe distract myself with some passive entertainment for a little while eating dinner and prepping myself for my first day off in a good while, that I can do projects for me. All right, I will see you on Tuesday. Take care and good night. Did I misspell it? Nope, I did all right. Buenas noches. Stay safe. Stay sane. Or, as I say to some of my customers, stay sane in a crazy world, or stay crazy in a sane world. Whichever you prefer, pick one and go for it.